Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most realistic and immersive FNAF fan games ever created. From terrifying environments to mechanics that make you feel genuinely trapped inside the building, these games get way too convincing at times. Some of these feel less like fan games and more like actual experiences. So let's dive right into them. What makes a horror game truly scary? Is it jump scares, atmosphere, build-up? Well, of course, all of these things together and more is what builds up a horror game to be something amazing. But I think if I had to choose one word to answer the question, what makes a horror game truly scary, my answer would be realism. In order for your game to be truly scary, I feel like the player has to be able to connect with your game on a personal level. And what better way to make that happen than to make the environment around them feel real? The game we'll be talking about today, I feel, pulled this off almost perfectly. A Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that was able to capture the real feel of an office, an environment, and realistic means of self-defense in a situation that seems so dire, you'd think you'd never be able to make it out to tell the tale. The game we'll be covering today is Freddy's Reanimated, the most realistic FNAF game ever made. Reanimated does not begin like most FNAF games tend to. This game opens to a dark void. We're told that when we die, we will be brought back to this void and that we won't be remembered. However, if we are to be remembered, what is the name we'd like etched into our headstone? And it's here where we can actually choose a name for our character. Afterwards, we're booted into the menu where we can begin the game. As the game begins, we're given a pretty eerie opening cinematic, something pretty uncommon with Five Nights at Freddy's games. It serves to show how we found the job online on a listing site to work as a security guard for 5 days in an abandoned pizzeria. Fantastic! I know myself personally would never accept a job that I know for a fact won't even last a week, but hey, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. With that, we're thrown into the first night where I can talk about hands down one of my favorite parts about this game. Loading into the office, we're hit with something crazy. This game looks real. The office looks like an actual office, with objects placed around that actually look like they should be there, not just a random assortment of items like we typically see in FNAF games. And the sound design is amazing. This game looks real, it sounds real, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people love this game so much. It tries to feel real. Watch for when he's closest, he can be tricked easily. What the fuck does that mean, bro? Holy shit. Oh my god. What the fuck? This looks sick. Of course, like most FNAF games tend to do, we have a phone call on each night to listen to. Instead of the usual where the phone guy at least sounds somewhat like they know what they're doing, the phone guy in Reanimated sounds baked out of his fucking mind.
Speaking of which, the only reason we have a security guard job right now is because the place is being demolished soon. So we don't want any funny business going on at night.
He tells us the basics of our camera. Who cares? That's my job. What he does say that's actually of note is that the building we're in has been abandoned for over a decade. And the only reason we're watching over it now is because the building is about to be demolished. And for some reason, they're concerned about funny business going on because of that. I have no idea what funny business is supposed to mean. My first guess was people breaking in to steal something, but then I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. People could have been stealing from this place for the last 10 plus years. Why would they all of a sudden decide they needed to do this now? Maybe it means graffiti, but the place is being demolished, so who cares? This is such a weird thing to latch onto, but I just feel like it's strange to mention this now. And it does actually bring up a good question. Why would you hire someone to guard a building that won't exist in 5 days? But you never hired a guard for the past 10 years that it was abandoned. It almost makes you wonder if they were expecting something to happen. And maybe that's why they're demolishing it. Before I get into any of the characters, let's talk about the controls of this game and the 3 tools at our disposal. You can only look in 2 directions in this game, at your computer and at your door and window. Something super interesting about this door is that it is actually just a door, which is pretty scary in a game like this where your doors are mainly known as your only means of defense. You can pull the blinds of your window down if you want to, and when I first found that out, I was reasonably concerned as to why. I see this right here, and I know this game's about to be fucked. I know this game is about to be so fucked, dude. It's just a normal fucking door. Bro, these motherfuckers gonna open the shit out of that thing. And we'll get into why in just a minute. But first, I really want to talk about the cameras and why they serve to be one of the most difficult things to deal with in this entire game. Upon looking at the cameras, you'll realize there's no typical camera map and buttons. Instead, there's just arrows at the bottom of the cameras that you can click to move from one camera to the next fairly slowly. This is brilliant in two ways. With the realism approach that this game is taking, looking at the surroundings, we can tell that this game takes place a pretty long time ago in 2013. We can tell this because of the confirm window at the beginning of the game being Windows 7 and the fact that the game tells us. But I just wanted to seem cool by pointing out that I knew what the Windows 7 UI was. Shut up. And yes, 2013 was a long time ago. I know for some of you it may not feel like it, but it was 12 years ago. That's older than some of my audience who, let's be honest, really shouldn't be watching my videos. Mom and dad, monitor your kids, fuckhead. Knowing this and knowing that the game is aiming to be realistic, opting to use a slow, outdated system like this is genius, even if, yes, I think it's AIDS and very annoying. However, once we start talking about the way this game plays, I'll bring up why I think the way these cameras are set up is needed. Anyways, on to the reason why I think this is as annoying as it is. Mainly because it's not consistent in one way that I would expect it to be. There are 9 cameras in total to surf through. When you reach camera 9, if you press the forward arrow again, you will be sent back to camera 1. That makes sense. So, what do you think happens if you press the back arrow while on camera 1? If you said you go back to camera 9, you would be completely wrong because the back arrow doesn't even fucking exist on camera 1. Why is this the case? I have no idea. If it was consistent either way, this wouldn't bother me, but you can cycle in one direction and not the other. And yes, this is noticeable and it does matter. Now we can finally talk about the first threat this game throws at you. I'm sure you could have guessed who it is. That's right, it's Chica. I lied, it's Bonnie. Of course it's Bonnie. Surprisingly, each character in this game attacks you in a unique way. Even though we only have 3 tools, this game somehow manages to make each character vastly different from one another, and I think that's amazing. Bonnie's main goal is to sneak into your office. He will move around the cameras until he gets to your door. And when he gets to your door, be ready. Close that motherfucker! Oh my god. Dude, literally fuck that. Literally fuck that. The moment I saw this, I knew that this was getting a Dxtr White video. And even the people in my comments over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, knew that this game was getting a white video. I actually had another video lined up for this week, and I've chosen to postpone it so that I could talk about this game first, since I love it so much. It's moments like these that FNAF games need. Once Bonnie is at your window, all you have to do is hold down your blinds until you hear his big fat feet galloping away. Not an overtly difficult character to deal with, but really paves the way for what the rest of this game has to offer. Luckily for us, there's a post-night minigame section after each night that we get to talk about. But hold up, Dxtr. Don't you usually hate post-night minigames? Yeah, typically I do. However, this game's post-night minigames don't make me want to shove a porcupine in my asshole backwards. There's no repetitive 8-bit minigames, and again, what we're doing in these minigames still feels realistic. After completing the night, we get another call from the phone guy. He asks us before we head home to go into the storage room and find an old computer, which we can use to upload some old pictures and footage of the building to the cloud. He says he wants to upload some of the interesting stuff to his personal blog, which I'm sure violates some sort of contract, but who am I to care? I break the law all the time. For example, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be arrested on the spot because of the language I choose to use. Anyways, something I think is cool is that we actually get to walk into the back room. We don't just miraculously get placed there. This will become important later, by the way. After walking into the storage room, we can access the computer and start uploading files to the cloud. You'll notice that you can turn to the exit of the room. For now, it's unknown why. After waiting for ages for the upload to finish, we walk out of the storage room and finish out our shift, moving on to night 2. On night 2, we get another call from the phone guy, where we find out that our player is actually trying to do something about the fact that the characters are moving. Apparently, we sent an email to the phone guy explaining that we saw Bonnie moving. We called him the creepy rabbit, which seemed to frustrate the phone guy a little bit, to the point he corrected us on his name.
Oh yeah, and that creepy rabbit you were talking about? He has a name. It's Bonnie.
Sure, this could have just been playful, but I get the funny feeling it's not. The threat introduced on this night is Chica, arguably the least threatening character in this entire game. Chica will randomly wander around your cameras, and she has the chance to charge at your door from 2 of those cameras. Except the difference with Chica approaching your door is that closing the blinds will not stop her. She can attack on cameras 2 and camera 4. You can tell when she's going to attack based on the position she's standing in. On camera 2, she'll be very close to the camera, and in camera 4, she'll be on the very left side of the camera. When she is in either of these 2 positions, you will need to use the flash button on your cameras to flash said camera and scare her away. You may be wondering why there's a flash on these cameras. That's not very realistic, and Dxtr, you told me this whole game was realistic. And now hear me out. Usually I'd agree with you, but I want you to take that concern like a boomerang and launch it as far away from you as possible. Night 2's post-night minigame has us go back to the computer in the storage room to fiddle with the power system. Now this you can complain about because I have no idea what the hell that is supposed to mean. And actually doing the task doesn't really answer anything either. We are shown a series of sliders that we have to quite literally fiddle with. Apparently doing so will reset the power. How do you tell you've put the sliders in the correct spot? Well, you just have to do trial and error. Move one slider a single place, press reset, and if it turns red, change it again. This is very monotonous. If only there was something else on this night to cure my boredom. I don't want to look back. What did I tell you? It's moments like these that really make these FNAF games stand out. To any future FNAF devs, do cool shit. Your game does not have to be stupidly hard to be memorable. It just has to do cool things. And this is some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. While looking at the computer, Bonnie will slowly try to creep closer and closer to you. You will have to look back at him lest he shoot his Jeep juice all over your spine. You can actually watch him walk backwards while you look at him, almost like he knows you've noticed he's moved, and is attempting to readjust himself so you go back to looking away. What the fuck? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my fucking god! Did you see that shit? Motherfucker just crip walked back, he moonwalked. It's honestly some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, and I love it. After completing this minigame and turning towards the door, you'll realize that Bonnie has gone away. Obviously getting bored of you because you're boring. So all we have to do now is walk out of the building. You want me to walk out that motherfucking door? You honestly want me to walk out that fucking door? I mean, I'll do it, but fuck. Oh my fucking god! This game is fucking awesome, by the way. But now it's time to move on to night 3. On night 3, the phone guy says he got another email from us because we told him that Chica was now moving too. He said that in case anyone else starts moving, we should use the flash because they're probably not used to bright lights. Again, I find this weird coming from him. And come to think of it, why would any of the animatronics from any FNAF game be sensitive to light? They're always on stage where bright lights are beaming on them almost constantly. So I just find it odd how much the phone guy seems to want us to do this. He ends off the call by stating he wanted to tell us a story, but he's out of time. Maybe we'll hear that story another day. For now, let me tell you the story of Sparky the dog. You remember, the hoax character that was said to be in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 way back in the day? Yeah, for some reason he's in this game. And he's the threat introduced on night 3. His mechanics are simple, but really start to show how annoying this camera system is going to become. Occasionally, Sparky will bark. When he does, he will be teleported to a random camera. You will have to find which camera he's on and flash him. Am I a huge fan of this mechanic? No, not at all. And I'm really not a fan when I have to meticulously scrape through each camera one by one. Overall, so far, it's not going to be all too bad. Keep your eyes on Chica, find Sparky every once in a while, and occasionally hold the blinds for Bonnie. Simple sugar, not so bad. But trust me, it'll get bad pretty damn fast. After completing the shift, we get another call from the phone guy. He tells us the cameras have been acting strange and that we should use the computer in the storage room to reset them. He also curiously mentions that he has remote access to the camera system. So that brings up the question, why the fuck are we even here? If someone else is able to watch the cameras in the safety of their own home, where there aren't a bunch of murder robots trying to butt fuck them, who cares? Let's just finish our shift and head to the storage room.
I'll see you on the flip side.
I'll see you in the grave, asshole. So let me tell you a little something. Oh my fucking God! I love this game. I don't know if that was obvious or not. Entering the storage room is when we enter by far the most difficult minigame section in this entire game. I'm not kidding. We're tasked with literally just holding a button down on the PC. Once it charges all the way, we'll reset a camera and move on to the next one. However, when you let go, the bar will very quickly decrease. That may not sound so bad. It would only be bad if we had a certain purple distraction trying to blow our backs out now, wouldn't it? What the fuck? What? Bro, he's fast as shit. Bonnie is the sole reason why this minigame is so AIDS. Bonnie, for some reason, thought that today was the day he was going to take the Rock Lee ankle weights off and show us his true speed. Bonnie is so astronomically fast during this minigame, it's not even funny. 3, 2, 3. Oh my motherfucking God. Oh my fucking God. Oh my fucking God. Can I break his knees? You have maybe 2 seconds of time to look at the screen before he kills you, so you have to be fast. And what adds to the difficulty of this night, the hitbox of the progress bar you have to click and hold. Swiping your mouse back and forth to check on Bonnie, then moving back to the computer is insanity. And when you come back, you have to hold the position of your mouse on this tiny little progress bar and continue to hold. But you can only hold for maybe 1 second before you have to turn back around to Bonnie and wait for him to walk all the way back to the door. And keep in mind, the progress bar is decreasing every time you look away, so you're really just fucked. And once you complete a camera is when you notice you have to fix 3 more. And if you ever die to Bonnie, go back into them all over again. Fuck you. This minigame took me around 30 minutes to finally complete. It's unironically the second hardest canonical challenge in this game, and I would love to have to never do it again. Oh, but one more interesting detail about this minigame. The final camera you fix briefly shows Foxy in the camera. Oh boy, I hope that's not foreshadowing or something. After completing that hell, we don't have to almost get touched by any robots on our way out and are free to move on to night 4. The phone guy calls us and fucking rambles about some bullshit I don't care about. He says that there was an ancient civilization that archaeologists found, and those researchers were later haunted by handprints of the ancient civilization. Again, I really don't give a fuck. This is purely symbolic for the story of the game, which I'll talk about later. But this was the story he was itching to tell us. I would rather itch my balls than hear him talk about that again. The threat introduced on this night is Foxy. Spoiler alert, the camera was foreshadowing something. Foxy acts exactly how you think Foxy would act. You have to look at him to stall him, and if you don't, he'll run to your office. But as I'm sure you could have guessed, he too doesn't care about your door. Watching him will push him back, so you know, just make sure you're doing that. Something of note is how Foxy breaks the cycle you've been really trying to build up throughout the game, forcing you to develop a new one. Up until this point, watching Chica has probably been your main focus, But now with a character that demands even more attention, I'm sure you could figure out why Foxy will put a big wrench into your plans. Now you have to find a way to constantly watch Foxy and Chica. And lucky us, Foxy is on camera 6, several cameras away from Chica's attack cameras. This game knows what it's doing. Sure, it's frustrating, but it's also genius. In this post-night minigame, we're told we have to fix a ventilation problem. Phone guy tells us it's just turning a few knobs. The ventilation room is in a door right off of the storage room, so the storage room is where we go. I don't see anyone yet. Hi, Bonnie. Were you expecting me to go there? Were you expecting to cut me off? Sorry, asshole. Not gonna happen. Is that not horrifying? Bonnie is standing right next to the computer we've been going to every night. He's starting to remember our patterns, getting to the computer before we can in hopes that he could jump us. But lucky for us, the computer is not where we need to go this time. Entering into the ventilation room, we have 6 knobs in front of us and 2 large vents to our left and right. Pretty reminiscent of the office from Pizzeria Simulator. I wonder if anything is going to come through those vents to try and kill us. Silly little viewer. Of course there is. This minigame's threat is Foxy. Throughout the minigame, Foxy will make quiet sound cues in whichever vent he's about to attack from. When you hear him, all you have to do is turn to stare at him until he goes away. Meanwhile, you have to painfully slowly turn these 6 knobs, which will take a very long time, because as you get closer to having them all finish, it seems that Foxy will attack you more and more frequently. After completing this task, we can leave with no other funny business taking place. Finally, we're left with one last night. One last thing standing in our way, and this game holds no punches in introducing it. Before you is something long forgotten. Something that was once loved and cherished, but now it lies broken. It is left abandoned. You know what becomes of something long forgotten. It dies a second death. It grows cold. It is unmoving. But what if some things don't wish to be forgotten? Do you know what happens when something refuses to be forgotten? It becomes angry. Anger is eternal. Anger grows, it festers, it burns, it writhes, and then it finally happens. It is given new life. It returns to us. It haunts us. However, it doesn't return as it once was. It returns as something else, something unrecognizable. Through its anger, it is reanimated. And with that, we're given one final message. The flash slows him down. Godspeed. When I first read that message, it gave me chills for some reason. It's like just by reading that, I knew what I was about to experience. Absolute agony. We get another call from the phone guy. He explains his reasoning for why he thinks the robots are alive. He thinks they're angry that they've been forgotten about and left abandoned for years, and he couldn't be more right. Night 5 introduces Freddy. Holy fucking shit, Freddy. Freddy is by far the most dangerous character in this entire game. When Freddy moves forward, he will never move backwards. And once he gets to your office, it's over for you. Yo, get the fuck away from that fucking door! You get the fuck away from that door! What? Oh, fuck, dude. Freddy is a dick. Raps. How do you stall Freddy? By using the flash, of course. When you flash Freddy, he will cover his eyes. Something interesting to note is that Freddy is the only character to be animated on the cameras. Such a small detail, but a detail I think is really cool. If you really want to make sure Freddy doesn't move, you'll have to time his intervals, since they don't vary, and make sure you're onto his camera and flash him at quite literally every single opportunity. You don't have much time to waste, as Freddy is fast. Really fucking fast. I don't quite have the vocabulary necessary to describe how intense this night really is. And if you get bad Sparky spawns like I often did, you could easily spend hours on this night. I was lucky enough to only have it take me a single hour. But if you manage to control your nerves long enough to complete this night, we will have one final minigame to talk about. After completion, We get one final call from the phone guy. He very ominously tells us to enter the dining room. He says he wants to show us something. Upon entering the dining room, we're greeted by all 5 animatronics staring back at us. The camera to the dining room flashes, and we hear the phone guy, named Ralph, explain that the reason it flashes is so that you can take a screenshot of the camera. Ow! Oh! Oh! Fuck! See? That's why I told you to make it a boomerang. Ralph then used that image to post on his blog. He's been using these camera images for his blog all week, and we were the bait. One last goodbye is said, and the restaurant goes quiet. The gameplay of Freddy's Reanimated is incredible. There's no doubting that. This game, of course, has a custom night with 3 additional unlockable characters, the first of which being Bon Bon, who's actually a reference to the game Freddy's Web Adventure. Pretty cool. Occasionally, he will appear on your cameras. If you don't click him fast enough, he will disable all of them for the remainder of the night. The next character you can unlock is called the Hawk. He acts as a Phantom Chica-like character. He will periodically appear on the cameras, blocking the view, and if you don't turn away from him, he will kill you. Pretty simple, but in a game where the cameras are super important, this guy can be a big pain in the ass. Finally, the last character you can unlock is Sienna, by far the most cancerous of the Custom Night 3. She will occasionally block the clock next to your door, which somehow prevents time from passing. This is a Custom Night character that can drop the realism at this point. All you have to do is click her nose and she will go away and the time will continue to pass. Altogether, completing a Custom Night with these 3 additional characters is a torture I would never want to put myself through. But shout out to Dark Ryun, who was able to pull it off, and whose footage you're seeing right now. I should mention that the Custom Night does have a secret ending, but I'll bring it up when I talk about the story of this game, which, you know, we'll do right now. The story of Freddy's Reanimated is honestly one of the most surprisingly thoughtful pieces of writing I've ever seen in a FNAF fan game. It's not about murder or purple men or endless timelines that make my brain feel like fucking mashed potatoes. It's about being forgotten, and about what happens when something that used to bring people joy is left to rot and fade away. The entire game is built on this theme: nostalgia, decay, and the quiet horror of being erased from memory. Freddy's Reanimated takes place inside Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, a restaurant that's already dead by the time we get there. It used to be loved. Kids laughed, parents smiled, the animatronics performed, and everything was fine, until it wasn't. Over time, the crowd stopped coming, the lights dimmed, the laughter stopped. The building was abandoned and left to gather dust for over a decade. No massacres, no missing children, just nothing. The kind of death most things really suffer. When the game starts, we're told the place is finally being demolished, and Ralph, the manager, hires a night guard to keep an eye on the place for the last few days. That's us. But before us, there was another guard, Mike Schmidt. Yeah, that Mike Schmidt. He worked one night, just one, and didn't make it out. In the demo of this game, we actually see what happened. Mike survives until 6 a.m. The power cuts, and Freddy himself storms into the office and literally bites his head off. No mystery, no cover-up. It's brutal, it's direct, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. When Ralph brings us in months later, he acts like none of that ever happened. He's casual, a little too calm, and gives us these half-baked instructions that sound like he's either high out of his mind or hiding something. He keeps asking us to do these little tasks: fix the power, upload old files, check the cameras, all while brushing off the fact that the animatronics are moving. Every night, our character emails Ralph describing what they saw, and every night Ralph dances around the truth. He never says, "You're wrong," but he never says, "You're right" either. It's like he knows what's going on, but refuses to say it out loud. Then, finally, on the last night, Ralph tells us a story. The story he's been dying to share. He says that back in the 1940s, archaeologists discovered a cave covered in human handprints. The people who found it were haunted by those same handprints for the rest of their lives. Like the dead were reaching out just to remind them they were still there. And Ralph thinks the same thing is happening to Freddy's. He believes the animatronics are moving because they refuse to be forgotten. That after sitting abandoned for over a decade, their anger, this pure, desperate rage, literally reanimated them. Not out of vengeance, not because of possession, but because of memory. Because they were once loved and then left behind. It's such a fascinating take. The idea that these animatronics aren't evil, they're afraid of fading away. It's one of the first FNAF fan games I've seen that makes you feel sorry for the monsters chasing you. They're not killing you because they want to, they're killing you because they don't want to disappear. After you survive the final night, Ralph asks you to head into the dining room. He says he wants to show you something. When you enter, all 5 animatronics are standing there, waiting for you. It's one of the eeriest visuals in the entire game. Completely still, completely silent. Ralph activates the camera flash, and the screen freezes in a burst of light. Then he says,
I finally figured out what the flash button does. It lights up the room so that you can take a screenshot of the camera you're looking at. I finally have more recent images for my blog.
And that's when it hits you. The whole time, we weren't protecting the building, we were the bait. Ralph was using us to get the footage and screenshots he wanted for his personal blog, to turn the remains of this haunted restaurant into online content, the same way we, as players, chase nostalgia. Ralph chases it too. He's obsessed with documenting something that's supposed to be gone. After everything, the building is demolished. Ralph's posts about it online, sparking renewed interest in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. People remember it again. The animatronics, those same restless spirits that didn't want to be forgotten, finally get what they wanted. They are remembered. And then they rest. The player gets their paycheck. The story ends not with a scream, but with silence. It's such a powerful way to close things out. Freddy's Reanimated isn't about surviving animatronics. It's about the fear of being erased. It's about what happens when the world moves on and leaves you behind. Even the custom night ending reflects that idea. Mike Schmidt's death is written off as a bear attack. Just a tiny headline, nothing more. And Freddy Fazbear himself, lying in the rubble, surrounded by everything that used to be alive, now just forgotten scraps of metal. For a game that's meant to be realistic, it's ironic that the story is one of the most human I've ever seen in this genre. Freddy's Reanimated isn't just the most realistic FNAF game ever made, it's one of the most real stories the community has ever told. Would you like to hear one last interesting piece of information I have to share? There is a secret in this game up until this point. As far as I'm aware, nobody has ever found it, and I can guarantee you've never seen it before. A secret so rare that the chances of finding it exceed luck that no human has ever had. And I want to thank City, the author of the FNAF fan game wiki, for providing me with this information and allowing me to share it with you guys. We know that Michael got bitten and killed by Freddy, but did you know you can actually see Michael's corpse inside of the game? You just have to be incredibly lucky. To start, you must have already beaten the main game. No custom night completion is necessary. Then you have to restart the game from night 1. Before completing night 3, you will have to die at least 5 times. Then, upon beating night 3, when entering the hallway, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance to see the corpse. Slight gore warning, by the way. This is probably the most realistic looking gore I've ever seen in a FNAF game. If you can pull all of that off and get more lucky than any human on Earth, this is what you will see in the hallway. Truly some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. But there you have it. That's everything as far as I'm aware that Freddy's Reanimated has to offer. Overall, this game is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had since starting this channel. I don't think this game is nearly my favorite. I think I like Junior's and Banshee just a little bit more, but it's definitely close. The atmosphere, the sound design, the game design are all borderline perfect works of art. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that this game is actually just fucking horrible? Let me know in the comments below. In my Too Many Nights video, I asked you guys who your favorite character to play as was, and my favorite answer was none of them because I couldn't find a comment that answered the question. But I did find a lot of comments upset with me because I choose to say retarded. A plot twist is a literary technique that introduces a radical change in the direction or expected outcome of the plot in a work of fiction. Now tell me, can you think of a horror game that pulls off an insane twist? Maybe Resident Evil 8 in its crazy twist comes to mind. Now let me ask you another question. Can you name a FNAF game with a crazy twist? A twist so cool you have to sit back and think, wow, that was pretty sick. The game I'll be covering today has one of those twists, and I'm incredibly excited to share with you the amazing experience I had while playing Showman's The Awakening. For those of you already familiar with this game, you may know that it actually has a game that came before it. Kinda. Years ago, the same developer released a game called Phobia: The Awakening, using the Wiggles as inspiration for the characters. Well, turns out the dev wanted to remake their game using their own original characters to continue the story, so now here we are with Showman's. This may lead you to ask the question, if I've already played Phobia, is there even a point to playing Showman's? And trust me, this is a question I've asked myself. Originally, I saw people asking me to play Showman's. I played Phobia on my second channel, Dxtr Black, not knowing at the time that Showman's was a thing, learning soon after the first episode went up that it was in fact a thing. So I questioned, does it even bother to play it? Well, recently I've made the decision to do exactly that and give Showman's a try. And let's just say, if you've played Phobia, play Showman's. It's everything Phobia is and more. So join me as we quake our asses into Showman's The Awakening. In Showman's, we play as a guy named Mark Ward, an employee of Showman's Pizza Place. And in night one, we're introduced to two of the animatronics that will be trying to insert their fingers into orifices we'd really prefer they keep their grubby little hands away from. But before we can talk about them, we should talk about the tools at our disposal. Something really interesting you'll notice about the office is that you're able to look everywhere. Up, down, left, right, behind you, below you. It's actually really cool. It's really the first thing I noticed jumping into the game. The reason for this is actually because Showman's wasn't created in Click Team Fusion like most FNAF games are. Instead, it was created in Blender, which is what most FNAF games use to model their characters, and is something I also had no idea could be used to program a game. So that was pretty cool learning for the first time. Anyways, you'll see two large hallways on your left and right, which you can light up using buttons on your desk. In front of you is this lady. Hey, hottie. She's not hot, I'm not even gonna lie, she's not even bad. Who we'll be talking about later in the video. And if you look behind you, you'll be able to see the clock where you can tell how much longer of the night you have to get through. Oh yeah, and of course, there's cameras, because it really wouldn't be a FNAF game without those. With that out of the way, now we can talk about the first two threats this game introduces, Johnny and Harry. Now I know, those names aren't very normal sounding when thinking in terms of Five Nights at Freddy's, when usually we're having names so utterly stupid you'd be forced to think they were a fictional character. But no, these two are still robots, and you still cannot have intercourse with them, so please remove all thoughts of that nature from your head for the remainder of this video. Johnny and Harry both start from the show stage and do the exact same thing. Johnny will move through the cameras to your right hallway, and Harry will move through your left hallway, where they will then enter what I'm going to be calling their attack mode. During their attack mode, they have 5 phases. Each phase has a sound cue, and it's important that you're listening for them. With each phase, they'll move closer and closer towards your office, with the final phase having them walk up to you. Obviously, you can check their distance by flashing the light at them, and by doing so, you will also temporarily stun them in place. However, I would highly recommend you don't turn the lights on when they're in the hall, as I personally feel it's much more efficient to just let them attack you so they can piss off as fast as possible. Every time Johnny or Harry enters a new phase, their eyes will glow for a short time after their sound cue plays. So when you hear it, you can just turn in the direction to double check that they've moved. On these earlier nights, you really don't have to be super careful with them. Flashing lights and not counting sound cues isn't really important since they're your only threats. So I'll get into a bit of a better strategy for them later on. However, once they enter your office, you'll have to quickly throw on a spare mask to fool them into walking away, just like the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And that's really it. Night 1 is pretty damn easy, really just introducing the basics needed to understand two very important mechanics. After beating Night 1, we see a cutscene, something that was not originally in Phobia. In it, we meet with the founder of Showman's, Jason Baker. He confirms with us that only Johnny and Harry were active on our shift, and we confirm. Apparently, this should not be happening, and it's a known issue. So that's good at least. Jason tells us that a previous employee mentioned more characters moving, which in all honesty doesn't bode well for my anus, given the fact we still have 5 more nights of this to deal with. But we get our things and go home for the night, only to come back to work in the morning. Night 2 introduces 2 new animatronics, and let me tell you, this is where the game starts to show how much of a pain in the dick it's about to become. The first character we should talk about is the fine shite sitting in front of us, Peggy. Peggy reminds me a lot of the scrapped animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, just given the fact of the way she moves subtly like them. She also reminds me a lot of what Anissa's husband really doesn't want her to do to him. Whenever you're not looking at her, whether that be checking on the cameras, looking at the hallways, or checking the clock behind you, Peggy has a chance to advance phases. You'll be able to see her start by looking down and slowly transfer through the phases until she's ready to attack. In order to reset her, all you have to do is flip the breaker switch on your desk to shock her and she'll reset. But be careful not to just spam this lever over and over, because every time you shock her, she becomes more aggressive, leading to the end of nights becoming incredibly stressful due to how fast she'll be attacking you. Cap and Cackle is the other menace introduced on Night 2. He is this game's Foxy. If you couldn't tell by looking at him, he's a pirate, just like Foxy. Also, he looks like he's cracked out of his fucking mind, zooted to the fucking moon. Seriously, look at this geeked out motherfucker. Holy shit, bro hasn't slept in 18 days. Look at those eye bags. What the hell happened? Stop looking at me, dude. Tell me that guy doesn't smoke crystal meth. Look at those fucking eyes. What are you doing? Hey. That's the face I make when I'm about to eat ass, bro. Anyways, similar to Foxy, he'll have several phases on camera 6. Watching him will slow his progression and even in some cases make him go backwards. If he happens to leave camera 6, he doesn't do exactly what Foxy does. Instead, he'll just start moving through your cameras like any other character would, albeit very quickly. If you manage to stare at him in one of those other cameras, he will go back to camera 6, where you can continue oogling at him to make him stay put. Both Peggy and Cap and Cackle work very well together, and the same goes for Johnny and Harry. We have 2 other central characters left to introduce, and you'll notice that those 2 also work very well in tandem with one another. This is something I need to give this game praise for. It is so incredibly good at introducing new mechanics in a way that's stressful, yet engaging and fun. You introduce Peggy, a character that moves when you don't look at her, and Cap and Cackle, another character who moves when you're not looking at him. And because these 2 characters are in different places, it forces you to learn how to balance them together. God, it's so fucking cool. Similar to last night, this night also has a cutscene after completion. In it, we're seen walking to the exit of the building. We hear a noise and quickly turn around to see an unknown animatronic staring back at us. It stares for a while before turning around and walking away. This is a character we haven't yet seen. Even the characters we'll be talking about on later nights can be seen on the cameras all the time, but this one can't. Keep him in the back of your head as he'll become important later. For now, let's move on to Night 3. Night 3 only introduces one character, but it also introduces another incredibly important mechanic, that being your vents. The animatronic introduced on Night 3 is Tony the Chef. He will enter your vents. You'll notice on your cameras that you have 3 camera vents. Tony can enter 2 of them, those being either camera 12 or camera 11. In these vents, he will have multiple phases he will move through before attempting to enter your office. With each movement, a very quiet sound cue will play, a stark contrast to Phobia where the sound cue was very noticeable. By double-clicking on a vent cam, you can lock the vent. Locking a vent uses no power because the game has no power to begin with. Praise God. Once a vent is closed, you can keep it closed as long as you'd like, with no consequences. The only downside is that you can only close one vent at a time. So this night really isn't all too different from night 2. Well, now's the time when I want to talk about sound cue counting with Johnny and Harry, as it's this night where you'll probably want to start getting used to doing that. As I mentioned earlier, Johnny and Harry each have 5 different phases in your hallway. The first is when they initially enter the hallway. You'll be able to tell because you can see their eyes in the hallway for a brief moment, and because you'll be able to hear their big ol' feet stomping around, kind of like I want toy Chica to stomp on my testicles. Once one of them enters your hallway, you can stop checking on them and focus on listening. Start a mental count of 3 in your head. All sounds in this game are directional, so that really helps. Whenever you hear footsteps on either side of you, decrease that side's number by 1. Once the counter reaches 0, you know that the next time you hear footsteps from that side is when they'll walk into your office to attack. Okay, 4 left, or 3 till he's at the last stage. 2 left until he hits door. Okay, 1 more. And he's at the line, he's walking the thin line. 1 more. I want to see how close I can cut it. Hi. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that. Doing this while they're both attacking you at the same time can get a little overwhelming, and on later nights they do like to attack together a lot. But if you can nail this counting strategy, they really shouldn't be too much of an issue. After completing night 3, we get to watch another lovely cutscene. In it, we're looking through the factory for who the fuck knows what. We open a crate and find a Johnny plush inside. Seeing this toy seems to trigger some primal instinct in us, and we pass the fuck out. Honestly, bro, probably not the greatest place to lose consciousness. I'm not even gonna front. We awake in another room, only to look up and see Showman. Scared as shit, we wake up from our slumber only to realize it was a short dream we had after we had passed out. There is clearly something mentally wrong with our dear beloved Mark. We just have to figure out what it is. Night 4 introduces the man himself, Showman. Showman works in perfect tandem with Tony, also attacking your vents. Although, unlike Tony, Showman can only attack your camera 13 vent. However, he also fucking loves to do this at the same time that Tony is jumping penis first into your vents. Showman only has 3 phases in the vent before attacking, so notably faster than Tony. So while both of them are attacking your vent, you really have to be counting their positions to figure out whose vent you need to close first, because once again, you can only have one closed at a time. If one of those fuckers get into your office, they're gonna crank that soldier boy and clock you in the jaw. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on and hope to God. Okay, so it didn't work. I couldn't tell which one was closer, bro. I thought the guy I had blocked off was closer. I couldn't tell. All in all, each character is incredibly easy to deal with, but because of how perfectly they all work together, it can lead to an incredibly stressful experience trying to play against all of them at the same time. However, never at any point throughout my playthrough did I feel like this game was unfair or that RNG was too much of a factor. This game, dare I say it, might have borderline perfect video game balancing. After completing night 4, of course, we get another cutscene. This one taking place before we go to work for the night. Before we enter our car, we get a call from Jason, telling us not to come in to work tonight. He says things are getting too dangerous and that it would be unsafe for us to go through our shift. We agree to not go in tonight, except the plot twist is that I fucking lied and we're gonna go in anyways, because we hate authority like a 16-year-old white boy from the suburbs. On night 5, we get a call from the phone guy, and let me tell you, he is absolutely pissed that we decided to come in for the night. He explains that anything in that building that moves will be demolished in the morning. He tells us to do whatever it is we're trying to do and get out, because they're not going to send anyone into the building to get us out. Other than that, night 5 is exactly what you'd think it is, just a much more difficult version of night 4, really testing your reflexes and especially your nerve control. But on this night is when I have to bring up really the only problem I have with this game: volume. This game is actually the loudest fucking game on planet Earth. Holy shit. Everything makes noise, and it makes a damn lot of it at that. There are typically ambient sounds in FNAF games, but for the love of God, this game plays intense music throughout most of the night, and it is loud as dick and balls. Want to hear the best part? As you get closer and closer to 6 a.m., the music adds more components and gets even fucking louder. This really doesn't help when so much of my strategy revolves around listening to sound cues. It's fucking crazy just how loud this game is. Now granted, was this something that was intended? Most definitely. And I'm not even saying that it's a bad thing, because obviously, inherently, it isn't. I was still able to beat the game just fine, and I feel like most other people would be able to beat it just fine as well. But this is something I couldn't not talk about. I love this game, but of course I'm not going to always be able to glaze everything I see, and I think this is truly the only flaw this game has. But hey, who gives a fuck about what I think? Let's move on to the cutscene, baby. Let me just say, I love this cutscene. I think everything about it is great. The pacing, the acting, everything is just so good that I don't want to ruin it by just talking about it. I'd much rather just show you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for our birthday
Well, god damn. We really should have listened and not come back, huh? So, it's safe to say that our pal Mark really got fucked here. Something I think is actually really cool. It's fairly common for FNAF games to have a character die in them, most commonly a phone guy, but to actually see it like this is just awesome. Going into night 6, we actually get a cutscene before the night happens rather than after it. In it, we play as the phone guy going into the building to get Mark. After a bit of searching, we find him, and once again, I think it'll just sit much better with you if you just watch it for yourself.
Mark? Is that you?
You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You should have done that shit. Oh, fuck.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
What do I do? Keep yourself together.
Are you fucking me? That's right. Turns out Mark isn't dead, but is just kind of possessed. Phone guy, or his real name, Matthew, runs back to the office with Mark on the pursuit, and night 6 begins. Night 6 consists of 4 threats, 2 of which we've already covered, Cap and Cackle and Peggy. However, you'll immediately notice that they both look pretty fucked up. Why is this? Well, turns out by demolish the animatronics, they really meant set the whole fucking building on fire. Because once again, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without a fire, right? Oh yeah, and of course, they are way more aggressive. Another thing you'll notice immediately is that we're stuck with the flashlight instead of the building lights. And let me tell you, as I'm sure you can already see, it is dark as fucking shit in this goddamn building with no lights. Of course, your flashlight has power, so you'll have to use it sparingly. You'll need to use it to check the hallways and to even be able to see Peggy in front of you. This honestly adds a whole new level of fear to this game, mainly with Peggy. I never got very good at telling when she switched positions, and to now have it where I can't even naturally see her just added a whole new fear factor, and I love it. The other two threats are the animatronic we saw in the post-night 2 cutscene, dubbed the Figure, and Mark himself, which is honestly one of the coolest twists I've ever seen. Having the character you've been playing as the whole time flip like this, it's insane. It's honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Let's start with Mark. Mark works the same as Harry and Johnny, except I feel like he's even easier. He can attack from either of the two halls, and unlike Johnny and Harry, you cannot see his eyes. He's also much quieter. The reason I think he's easier? Well, you don't have to do any mental counting to tell when he's going to attack, as he has a totally unique sound cue for when he enters your office. So as long as you've got fast reflexes, it's really just a game of waiting to hear the sound cue and putting on the mask. The final new threat on this night is, of course, the Figure. He takes the place of Tony and Showman attacking your vents. He can attack any of the three you have, since there won't be two characters going for the vents at the same time. Again, I honestly feel like this is easier than Tony and Showman. Of course, the Figure is fucking light speed fast when choosing and climbing through vents, so as long as you've got fast reflexes, it really shouldn't be too much of a challenge. Ironically enough, the main challenge I had with this night was not the two new threats, but the two returning threats, Peggy and Cap and Cackle. Again, these two have the best synergy out of any of the characters in this game, so bringing them back for night 6 was a no-brainer. Really, the actual problem for me was Peggy. The sheer speed at which she moves is enough to make you shit in your britches, and nearing the end of the night, she will be moving at a speed Usain Bolt would be creaming his pants over. But if you can control your nerves for long enough, you'll complete night 6 and move on to the post-night cutscene. Matthew runs as fast as he can to the exit, only to find it locked. Turning around, we see Mark slowly creeping up on us like the booty cheek creep freak. The screen cuts to black, and we're left with only the screams of Matthew echoing throughout the pizzeria, and Showman's The Awakening comes to a close. Kind of. We're not exactly done just yet. There's actually 6 other secrets this game has to offer, that being the secret tapes. On each night, you will be able to find one of these tapes and play them later. On night 1, if you check camera 9, you'll be able to see a tape on the shelf in the top left corner. Night 2's tape is located in one of the drawers in your office. Night 3's tape is located on camera 3 on a shelf in the bottom left corner. Night 4's tape is located on camera 2 at the top of the screen. Night 5's tape is located on camera 5 on a high shelf in the middle of the camera, and Night 6 tape is conveniently located directly in front of you on the desk. Hey there, post-scripting Deku here. Turns out I'm fucking wrong. These are not the locations of the tapes on every night. Turns out every single night, besides the 6th one, has a random location for each tape, each being on a different camera. This was just the order that I had. So, yeah. Sorry about that. These tapes, as I'm sure you could have guessed, go over some extra bits of lore to help us piece together the story. And this is the part of the video where I say, I'm very sorry guys, I'm terrible at talking about story, but I'm going to try my best here. Tape 1 shows all of the characters on stage singing the happy birthday song to a kid whose name isn't explicitly said. We can see by the date of the tape that this takes place in 1995. Tape 2 seems to be a sort of log from Jason, explaining his reasoning for why he believes the characters are acting so hostile. Originally, when they were first being built, they attempted to add an advanced facial recognition system that would allow the characters to actually see and think for themselves. Although the system never ended up working as intended, they wiped the idea from their systems. Well, guess what, fucker? Turns out they really didn't, and Jason seems to think that this is the reason the characters are acting the way they are. Jason makes a brief mention of an unnamed him and questions if one of his employees are potentially tampering with the characters. I'm guessing that him is referring to either Mark or the Figure. Tape 3 shows 2 guys working on Tony. They're talking about how these robots should be scrapped because of how old they are, and then the guy in the back says a sentence that I literally cannot for the fucking life of me decipher. Like many other things in this game, the static that plays during these cutscenes is so fucking loud I can't hear anything except it. I'll play what he says here, and if any of you guys can decipher it, please let me know in the comments.
That company's been up and dealt with recently. Why?
Tape 4 is one of my favorites. It really gives off the FNAF VHS style that I really like. A maintenance worker is running a test on Cap'n Cackle. It doesn't quite go as planned as he bugs out, so they restart him and then get attacked. Afterwards, showing the lifeless corpse of the employee laying on the floor in front of Cap'n Cackle. It's just such an unnerving moment to see this in person. Usually when it comes to FNAF games and death, you don't see it. So seeing it in a game like this is really unnerving, and it adds a sort of realism to the actual events that are taking place. Tape 5 is probably my favorite of all the tapes, being the most terrifying in my opinion. In it, we're in the perspective of what sounds like a young girl. Hiding under a table, we hear a scream from another room. Shortly after, Johnny walks into the room and starts to look around. The girl accidentally makes a noise, and when she looks back up, Johnny is staring at her, and he quickly goes for the kill. This is such a fucking horrific and terrifying situation to think about being in, and I think that's why I like it so much. Just imagining being in the same situation makes my hair stand. Tape number 6 is an odd one. We appear to be being spoken to by the figure. He tells us that the birthday we saw earlier was Timmy's 12th birthday. He had 2 of his friends with him that day, and it was a party made specifically for him. Then we see 3 drawings of his friends, all of them sad. The figure appears in front of us and slowly glances up before the tape ends. Again, as I've previously stated, lore analysis is not my strong suit at all, so I really can't even begin to imagine what anything here means. I know robots mad and robots kill, and I think that is neat enough. Overall, Showman's The Awakening is such a big step up from Phobia, and while I still do love that game, I think I love Showman's even more. Amazing graphical upgrades, fantastic cutscenes, and a gameplay loop that's so fun, difficult, yet still not frustrating. This game really has it all, and I truly think it's a fantastic game to play if you're at all interested in horror games. Even if you're not a huge Five Nights at Freddy's fan, I still think you should give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that reimagining this game from Phobia wasn't really worth it? Let me know in the comments below. In my Five Nights at Candy's video, I asked you guys if you thought Five Nights at Candy still holds up today. My favorite comment is this one by the Phantom Split. It's too long for me to get into right here, but I think you should pause to read it. The ransomware genre is a subgenre of Five Nights at Freddy's games. While none of these games seem to actually understand what ransomware actually is, the general idea of these ransomware games is to make it appear as though your computer has been compromised by said game. A popular ransomware title you've probably heard of before and that I've actually covered on this channel is Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. And today we'll be diving into my favorite Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware game ever made, FNAF 1 Remake. Created by Marco Antonio, FNAF 1 Remake was designed as an April Fool's joke, so to some, the idea of actually playing it on release was off the table. However, for those who did choose to give it a try, I'm willing to bet they had a very interesting FNAF experience like never before. This game is fascinating. This game is creative, and this game is awesome. So join me today as we dive into the sad and depraved world of FNAF 1 Remake. FNAF 1 Remake centers around us as individuals rather than an actual character, which is something super cool that I've never seen in a FNAF game before. The game opens to a cutscene that just displays text. Explaining the story of the game may be a little confusing, so let me make something very clear. FNAF 1 Remake uses the player themselves as a character, writing your own story in place of a Mike Schmidt style character. In this game, we've re-downloaded Five Nights at Freddy's to try and recapture the nostalgia we originally had as kids when the game first released over 10 years ago. As someone who was around very early into FNAF's lifespan, in fact, I actually joined the community before FNAF 2 was even announced, This is a topic that I could personally find myself relating to. I can still remember my first experience with the game. I was on the couch with my buddy who had the demo version on his tablet. He booted it up and I got too scared when Bonnie showed up at the door. I mistakenly took him for a dog at the time. I also avoided watching Markiplier's Let's Play of Five Nights at Freddy's because I somehow mistook Bonnie again in the thumbnail as a walrus. Don't ask me. I was a kid, and kids are retarded, okay? The game refers to itself as Buddy throughout the playthrough. Buddy tells us in the opening cutscene that he's going to give us the nostalgic feeling we've been yearning for, and it's going to be so perfect that it surpasses perfection itself. Shortly after, Buddy takes control of the program and quite literally changes the size of the window to show off how in control he really is. For the remainder of the game, we will not be able to put the game into full screen. Something I originally thought was going to be super annoying, but I actually grew to find charming throughout my playthrough. And with that, we can really start to dive into this game. I hope you're excited, because this game is really fucking cool. Throughout the nights, Buddy will talk to us before beginning each one. Buddy asks us if the office looks like the one we remember, just like the old days. He explains that the main idea of the game hasn't changed. It's a remake after all, and before he can say anything else, Night 1 begins. The only threat introduced on Night 1 is Bonnie, and he works in the exact same way that Bonnie does in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Once again, this is a remake after all. Bonnie will make his way to your door and you'll have to close it to keep him out. However, Bonnie can actually attack both of your doors instead of just one. But when I tell you that these character models are a whole lot more uncomfortable looking than the originals, I mean it. Oh my fuck! Oh, fuck that, bro. Fuck that. Dude, what the fuck? Dude, that's so fucked up. The animatronics in this game are all very creepy looking. Not quite scary, but uncanny. Like something is clearly wrong. Take Bonnie. The way his face looks like it's melting, mixed with the odd poses he has throughout the cameras and while in the doorway, it just makes for a feeling of, God damn, I really want to keep him away from me. And I think that's super cool. Of course, keeping Bonnie out is as simple as ever. Literally just close the door. However, something interesting I want to point out about this game is the subtle movements that the window has while playing. As you move from side to side through the office, you can actually visibly see the window subtly move from side to side as well. It's such a small detail, but it's so fucking cool, and it's these little details that always get me to love these types of games. While playing through the nights, you'll also hear a very calming piano playing in the background. I feel this gentle music adds to the nostalgic feel. Not because the original Five Nights at Freddy's had music, it didn't, but the tone of the music itself feels nostalgic, even though I had never heard it before. And mixed with the very unsettling imagery throughout the game, I think the calming music really adds to the overall amazing atmosphere this game has. Night 2 introduces two new threats, Chica and Foxy. Let's start with Chica since it's literally just Bonnie. She does the exact same thing and is dealt with in the exact same way. The only difference is that Chica will make a sound cue when she's at your door and she's fat. Also, let's pause for a moment to look at Chica. Design-wise, Chica has changed more than any other character in the game. Her beak is gone, instead being replaced with a human-looking smile, which is just something I could have gone without seeing, thank you. And her eyes, of course, don't look very animatronic, now do they? Also, her bib just says snack, and it's spelled wrong, so that's great. The other character to mention, of course, is Foxy, as previously mentioned. Foxy is pretty much the same as in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, with a few minor differences. To start, he is stalled by the cameras just like the original. However, you can actually stop him before he charges at your office. You're given the ability to shock him at any point to reset him in Pirate's Cove. However, when you do so, it does drain a lot of power. So it's best to just make sure you're watching him. He does have one other attack, however. Occasionally, you will hear Foxy do his classic singing. A touch I think is super nice. The classic da-da-dums from Foxy are some of the most memorable noises in the entirety of the FNAF franchise. Right up there next to Freddy's death song, the FNAF 2 hallway ambience that makes me want to wipe my balls on a cheese grater, and the animatronic jump scare noises themselves. So adding them back into this game 100% contributed greatly to the nostalgia factor that this game was going for, and I love it. When you hear Foxy start to hum, a hook will appear on the ceiling of your office. You will have to simply click the hook to make it go away, or Foxy will obviously ravage your insides. However, this may go entirely unnoticed since the entirety of the game, as I'm sure you could already tell, is in black and white. So it is likely that you may miss the hook if you don't end up hearing the sound cue, inevitably leading to a game over. On night 3, Buddy tells us that he didn't think we'd make it this far, clearly showing some distress on how quickly we're progressing through his perfect game. He introduces Freddy to us on this night, and the fun can really begin. Of course, I'm not allowed to be happy for a long while playing a FNAF game, so Freddy obviously had to have a find him on the camera mechanic to completely soil my day. However, I actually don't think it's that bad in this game. Ugh. Dxtr, you always do this. Whenever you don't like a game, you nitpick it to death and talk about how you hate every detail. But when it comes to a game you like, you forgive almost everything in the game, even if it had the same mechanics or problems that another game had that you didn't like. You're a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. You're just brain dead. We have to pause for a moment to make something clear, since it's obvious from reading some of your guys' comments that you have no idea how opinions work despite the fact you guys have so many of them. So let's get together and do a little opinion breakdown. To start, I hate when FNAF games put a find them on the camera mechanic into their game. I think it's bad, and I think it disrupts the flow of the game. However, I don't mind this mechanic in FNAF 1 Remake. Does this make me a hypocrite? The answer is no. Let me dumb it down for a bit for the people in the back who don't think too good. Let's imagine someone doesn't like tomatoes. Would you call them a hypocrite because they claim to like ketchup? No, you wouldn't. And this is the same thing. Dxtr, no it isn't, because ketchup isn't just tomatoes. Ketchup has multiple other things in it. Ding, ding, ding! Congratulations, dumbass! You just connected the dots. Would you like a trophy? Well, too bad. You've been on this planet for way too long to finally be able to figure this out right now. In the same way that ketchup isn't just tomatoes, FNAF 1 Remake isn't just a find them on the camera mechanic. It's the mixture of that mechanic and everything else that the game has to offer that makes me tolerate it. And the rest of the game doesn't have every character require a shit ton of attention. So, taking a few seconds to find someone on the cameras actually doesn't disrupt the flow of the game at all, and therefore makes it a balanced integration of the mechanic. If that somehow still doesn't make sense to you, and you still think I'm a hypocrite who glazes every game I enjoy, then you are retarded and there's no saving you. Anyways, continuing, Freddy also has 2 other ways to attack you. The first is just teleporting directly into your fucking office. When he does, all you have to do is just stare into his big, innocent, sensual eyes. I mean, all you have to do is stare at him for a while and he'll teleport back to the stage. Something interesting to note here is that when he's in your office like this is the only time you'll be able to see his eyes. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but it's just something kind of cool I noticed. The final mechanic that Freddy has is to play Simon Says with you. Yes, I'm serious. Hey, this game is still an April Fool's joke after all. It can be as unserious as it wants to be. Occasionally, Freddy will drop a panel down into your office and 4 of the 9 panels will light up in a specific order. You will then have 10 seconds to repeat the pattern you saw. If you fuck up the order or take too long because you sit on TikTok and have the attention span of a toddler, then you will immediately get jump scared. And there you have it, the most mechanically complex character throughout the entire game. And you can quote me on that. Editor, quote me on that. I fucking dare you. Watch what happens. Al, piece of fucking shit-ass editor! I'm sorry, Al. I don't know what came over me there. Anyways, on to night 4. On night 4, Buddy talks to us once again, except this time something is a bit different. Buddy is growing nervous that we're about to beat the game. He expresses how he wishes it could go on forever. how he wishes he could make it go on forever. Night 4 doesn't introduce anything new and is just a harder version of Night 3. Night 5 is much the same. Buddy asks us if we're still having fun. He asks us if we will play again after we win, just like old times. It's becoming clear that Buddy is growing desperate, ironically holding on to the nostalgia more than we are. He doesn't want us to leave, and I get the weird feeling that he's not going to let us. And I was right. At 4 a.m. on Night 5, Buddy ends the night abruptly to talk to us, finally showing himself. An uncanny drawing of Freddy. He's grown aggravated with our supposed lack of appreciation of his masterpiece. He thinks that by us beating the game that we're just going to throw him and his creation aside to forget about. He grows more and more morphed as his anger gets the best of him, and he decides once and for all to make one final change to make this game truly perfect for us, getting rid of every mechanic we've seen so far and replacing it all with him, throwing us right into Night 6. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. We open to the office and see what it has become, Buddy's new creation. The scenery is morphed like it's underwater, and the monitors have been added to our office. Even the header of the window has changed to "Keep Going" in all caps. Buddy by far is the most complex character in this entire game. Al, don't you dare play that fucking quote! The most mechanically complex character throughout the entire game. You asshole. Well, whatever. I guess I lied back there, but who cares now? Buddy is the most complex character, so eat my nuts. Let's start with Buddy's main mechanic, sprinting as fast as possible directly into your door. You'll know when he's about to attack because you'll hear the loudest footsteps of all time pile driving directly towards you. You will have to quickly close the door to whichever side he's attacking and listen to him pound on the door as loud as fuck. Buddy also has the chance to attack your doors without booking it, so you will have to use the hall lights to see if he's there, and if he is, just hold the light on him until he disappears. He attacks very often and very quickly, so make sure you're on your A game. Buddy has two other ways to completely drill into your butt like he's digging for gold. You'll notice in your office that 2 monitors have appeared. That is not a coincidence, and it is actually a mechanic, if you can believe that. Throughout the night, Buddy has a chance to hack these monitors. When he does, all you have to do is click them to shut them off. If you don't, they will very quickly begin to drain your power faster than my female coworker drains my patience. And finally, Buddy has the chance to infect your cameras with a virus. When he does, you'll have to find the virus on the cameras and close them before they totally beam you. If you don't do that and instead allow them to beam you, the virus will cause your power to go out, and Buddy will crip walk into your office, rubbing his hands together and licking his lips before diving into your crack to have a quick little nibble. Keep in mind, Buddy is very fast and you will be getting attacked consistently throughout the night. There's not a whole lot of breathing room, so this night really pushes the limits to test your nerve control. If you can manage to survive until 6 a.m., we will get the final monologue from Buddy, where he expresses that he failed to accomplish his only goal: create a fun experience for us, the player. He says he'll cease to exist once the game is closed, saying he's only data and checked boxes, breaking the fourth wall and referencing what I can only assume to be Click Team Fusion code, which is primarily made up of checkboxes. He finalizes his monologue by stating he will forever roam around the darkness of our minds and asks us not to pity him. He apologizes one final time and hopes that we had a good time with his creation. And yes, Buddy, yes I did. And with that, that's all FNAF 1 Remake has to offer. There's not much more besides the custom night and a real-time 6-hour night, which I will not be touching in my entire life, thank you very much. But for a game this good and creative, I think most would be surprised to hear that it was developed in only 2 months. And I think that's fucking crazy. That's such a small amount of time for an indie dev, and I think everyone can agree when I say it turned out great. The game isn't too difficult, the designs are amazing, the atmosphere is uncomfortable and nostalgic, and it does a near perfect job of telling the story of desperation. Buddy's goal was to scare you, to appeal to how FNAF seemed when we were kids, and as we progressed through the nights, he grew desperate that we would beat it and we'd never come back. So he forces a 6th night on us in a desperate attempt to get us to stay, but after completing it, he gives up completely. He has nothing left to give us, and he knows that as soon as that window closes, we're never going to play again. And I think this is truly the most amazing part of this game. Fuck the atmosphere, fuck the designs, fuck the gameplay. This story is honestly, if not one of the best I've ever seen come out of any FNAF game. Or really any game for that matter, ever. And that cannot go overlooked. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just YouTube thumbnail slop? Let me know in the comments below. In my Tubbyland Archives video, I asked you guys what the most frustrating experience you've had in a FNAF game was, and my favorite comment was this one by Drews. They said Post Shift 2 in its entirety, and of course I agree. I think everyone knows how buttfuck difficult that game is, and I'm sure at some point I'll cave and end up covering it. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing in the comments below. I also want to take this time to apologize for the shortness of this video. This game really didn't have much to cover, but I really didn't want to gloss over how much I enjoyed the story, as it truly is one of the best I've ever seen. So I'm sorry if you were expecting another long 20+ minute video. I'll be having some really long fucking videos coming out in the near future, so stay tuned for that. As I continue to make videos talking about Five Nights at Freddy's games, as each week goes by, I grow more and more nervous that I will eventually run out of interesting games to talk about. Obviously, the next choice would be to start talking about random horror games until new FNAF titles are released. However, recently I found a FNAF fan game I have never heard of before, a game so interesting I couldn't help but get sucked right into it. The game we'll be talking about today is Night Watch at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game that pretends to be an official demo of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, but is really hiding some incredibly dark secrets. Stick around because you're not going to want to miss out on this one. This is truly one of the most interesting FNAF games I will ever talk about on this channel. So sit back, relax, and join me today as we dive into the depraved world of Night Watch at Freddy's. Night Watch at Freddy's does not begin in the way a normal FNAF game typically begins. I've actually never seen any FNAF game start in the same way that Night Watch at Freddy's does. Upon pressing start, we're greeted to the night screen, where you can already see something interesting. You have the classic live system that was originally supposed to be in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. But let's pause for a second and back way the fuck up. Take a look at this title screen. Do you notice anything strange? Well, if you said that the creator of the game's name looks a bit weird, then you'd be correct. It says the creator's name is Scott Cawthorn, clearly an alternate version of Scott Cawthon. But that's not where it ends. Right next to the name, we can see the year 2014. Spoiler alert, this game was released in 2025. Let's cut to the chase of why I wanted to talk about this game, as clearly there's something weird going on. Night Watch at Freddy's explores an alternate timeline where the original Five Nights at Freddy's game took a significant turn from what we know them as today. Wow, I hear you say. That's a super interesting idea for a FNAF game. Tell me, who could come up with something as interesting as that? Well, the answer to that question is pretty damn cool. This game's lead director is Avocado Dreams, the same person who's responsible for Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and the remnants of Tubbyland, both of which I've covered on this channel, and you should definitely go check out those videos after this one. But for now, let's continue. Knowing that this game is supposed to be a demo for what the first official FNAF game was intended to be. Of course, since this is an alternate timeline of the official FNAF games, in this alternate universe, Scott actually did end up including the live system that was left out of the official games. And you'll notice plenty more details just like this. For example, there's actually a fake alternate version of the classic Scott Games website, Scott Productions. The team responsible for this game really went all out. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever seen in my entire time working on FNAF stuff. Before we load into the office, we get to see a developer note talking about Night 1. Keep in mind, Night Watch at Freddy's is pretending to be a demo, so notes like these are pretty common. Welcome to Night Watch at Freddy's, or at least the prototype of it. Some things are still subject to change. For right now though, you can play through what's done of the game and get a feel for how it's going to end up. Night 1 begins and we of course get a phone call from this game's phone guy. He gives the basic Night 1 spiel that we're all used to. However, he does mention how the breaker and power systems work. Of course, that's my job, so I'm going to be doing that instead. A few things you'll immediately notice about this game. The first, and in my opinion, biggest outlier is how the doors behave. You'll notice that they're already closed from the beginning of the night. You can open the doors and flash the hallways, and doing so increases your usage. Your light especially, but we'll talk about that more once we get into the characters. Moving on to your cameras, you'll notice another scrapped feature from the official games is present here, that being the original camera buttons, where they were originally intended to be circles that would project the direction they were actually facing in the building. Such a super small, cool detail, but if there's anything Avocado Dreams is good at, it's attention to detail. Only one animatronic is introduced on Night 1, that character being Bonnie. Of course, this is an alternative FNAF 1 after all, so keeping the overall order of the character introduction does make sense. Bonnie, as I'm sure you could have guessed, is pretty simple to deal with overall. Bonnie's goal is to get to your left door, exactly how he does in the original. However, the way you deal with him is different, and he also introduces a new mechanic in the form of points into the game. Once Bonnie reaches your left hallway, staring at him on the cameras will stall him. This will become integral once we start talking about another character that gets introduced. While you're stalling Bonnie, you will get 5 points around every 0.5 seconds. So the longer you watch him, the longer he doesn't move, and the more points you obtain. Something additional to note are your lives. If you are to lose all of them, you don't have to start all the way back on Night 1. Instead, your points will just get reset to 0. On top of that, after every completed night, you will gain 1 life. Anyways, back to talking about Bonnie. Once Bonnie reaches your door, you have to open it and hold your light on him until he goes away, which will happen pretty quickly, thankfully, because as I've said before, the lights will absolutely ramp up your breaker stress. Once Bonnie leaves, you'll want to close the door again. Oh my god, oh my fucking god, oh my fucking god, it runs. My chest, dude. Oh my god, don't do that ever again. Dang. No thanks. This mechanic does bring up an interesting and pretty scary point. The doors are closed by default, and if you don't open the door and flash Bonnie when he is there, he will jump scare you. So that brings up the terrifying realization. Bonnie is strong enough to open the door if he really wanted to. Put yourself in the shoes of the Night God for a second. If that doesn't scare the absolute piss and shit out of you, I don't know what will. But aside from that, that's all Bonnie does. Something additional I do want to point out about Bonnie is how fucked up and gross he looks. Why are his ears down like that? Tell me that's not disgusting. Dogs put their ears down when they know they did something bad, and cats put their ears down when they're about to do something bad. So what the hell does a bunny with its ears down mean? That I'm about to get back shots? Probably, and I don't want that. Nice job getting past the first night. Still wondering what I should do with that raccoon. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Night 2's phone call just explains one of the new characters. Additionally, Phone Guy says he's going to drop the script the company wants him to read and instead just tell some stories during the phone calls, which he doesn't end up doing this time around. However, towards the end of the call, his dog runs into a fucking door like a moron, and then he ends the call to go take it for a walk. I think that's supposed to be a hint for one of the characters this night introduces, because I have no idea what else that could be. Like the official FNAF 1, Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, Foxy and Chica. Let's go over Chica first, since she's pretty much just Bonnie with a small difference. She will do the same thing that Bonnie does, except she'll go to the right door instead. Same thing goes. Staring at her in the right hall will stall her, and while you stall her, you'll gain points. However, the difference with Chica is how you deal with her once she reaches your door. You still have to open it, but instead of holding the light on her, you have to flash your light at her. Now, come in real close and let me give you a little tip about clicking on things in almost any Click Team Fusion game. The way Click Team seems to register clicks can be delayed depending on your mouse position. I actually first noticed this during my playthrough of Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. a few months ago. If you keep your mouse stationary and click on something really fast, Click Team will not register every click you make. However, if you move your mouse slightly really fast and then click again, then it will register every click. This is exactly how you can get Chica to go away really fast. If you jitter click your mouse and whip around the cursor in a small enough area over the lever, you will flash the light really fast, making Chica leave faster. Fun fact, you can also use this clicking method to ring the bell on your desk really fast and make your grandma's tinnitus act up. But you didn't hear that from me. The other character this night introduces is Foxy, who for some reason is gender swapped in this game. Not really sure on that decision. Maybe Foxy was going to be a girl in the official games, but Scott changed it, and this game is drawing from that. Or who knows, maybe Avocado Dreams just wanted a female Foxy. Either way, it's not really important. Foxy almost works the same way she does in the original. She still has multiple phases she will go through before charging at your office. However, I'm unsure if being on the camera stalls her this time around. After she gets to her final phase and disappears to charge at your office, you'll have to check Pirate's Cove and look at her sign to see which door she's charging at, since yes, she can attack both. Once you know which door she's going to attack, all you have to do is open that door and wait for her to arrive. She'll lean in and yell at you before running back to her cove. From there, you can just close the door and easy peasy lemon dick, she's been dealt with. Keeping this one short since I haven't really been feeling the best lately. The more I work on this project, the more I feel like it's not aligning with what I've learned over the years. The overall themes are just... I guess it's just something I'll have to get used to. Hopefully it won't impact development too much. Also, I keep getting questions on how to deal with the golden Freddy. The statue in the entrance doesn't move. There's not even any coding for it to move. I don't understand what you all are talking about. Night 3's phone call is an interesting one. It begins with the phone guy telling us about his dog running into the door. Idiot ass dog. Cats are way better anyways. He starts talking about the new character, a puppet, and about how it really creeps him out. You can tell by the sound in his voice that he really doesn't like this thing.
Dog. It freaks me out.
He explains how to deal with it and abruptly ends the call by yelling at us to not let it out of our sight. So, as I'm sure you could have guessed, the new threat on this night is the puppet, which I'm sure you already knew was not in the original FNAF 1. So, how is this character going to work? Well, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking, stressful, and anxiety-inducing characters in the entire game. Occasionally, you will hear a sound cue, one that I can't really describe with words. It's really weird. Anyways, when you hear it, the puppet will appear on one of 4 cameras at the bottom of the map at random. It will either be in the bathroom, the show stage, the party room, or the kitchen. You will have to find which 4 of these cameras it's on and hold the stop button like a music box to make it go away. If you don't do this in time, the puppet is going to plow on that pussy. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me, bro? Oh my God. Put me in a fucking cage, dude. Overall, it doesn't add anything too crazy to the mix so far. Your strategy at this point should be watching Foxy and the 2 halls, staring at Bonnie or Chica to desync the 2 from attacking at the same time, and whenever you hear the sound cue, go deal with the puppet. Overall, not too bad, but night 4 is when things really start to ramp up. This is getting a bit crazy. I thought adding more depth would increase the replayability, but it's honestly overwhelming. Maybe I'll just change it so Freddy only appears during the power outage, but that might be a bit lame. Time will tell, I guess. I'm worried that having so many different things to do might be too much. Also, added the ability to ring the bell on the desk. Thank Lane for that idea. Night 4's phone call gets pretty serious. The phone guy explains that the animatronics are not acting right at all, going places they shouldn't be going, snapping their jaws shut, which they shouldn't even be programmed to do. He mentions Freddy specifically, and how one time before showtime, they found him in the garage of the building, staring at the main power breaker. So yeah, that sounds like Bad News Bears. Get it? Bears? Like Freddy because he's yeah, you get it. Night 4 introduces this game's final threat. Obviously, it's Freddy. And Freddy ties this game's loop together by single-handedly being the most stressful character in the entire game and making every other character feel 10 times more stressful than they already were. Just like the puppet, Freddy will occasionally laugh. When he does, that signifies that he has moved cameras. Freddy can move between only 5 cameras, and getting to your office is not a concern of his. When he moves off the show stage, he will either go to the bathrooms, the party room, the back room, or the kitchen. If at any point you hear him move and you can't find him on any 4 of those cameras, then that means he's moved to the garage. The garage camera, of course, has no video feed. So the only way to know for sure if Freddy is in there is by checking the 4 other possible cameras he can be in. When you know he's in the garage, you will be able to use the garage's camera scanner. The scanner will then shock the absolute living shit out of him and make him piss off. If you don't shock him fast enough, he will punch the shit out of your breaker and you will completely lose power. So there you go. There is every single character at the same time. Can you see how stressful this could be? Having to constantly watch Foxy, having to balance stalling Bonnie and Chica, balancing your power usage and your camera usage and the power aids that will happen when you use your lights, and on top of that, having 2 characters that will require you to, at random, play a stupid fucking find them on the camera mechanic game, while having one of those bullshit characters also mixing in a small music box mechanic at the same time. Does that sound a little bit overwhelming? If you said yes, that's because it kind of is. But in all honesty, I love this gameplay loop. Sure, I'm not a fan of the find them on the camera mechanics at all, but somehow this game manages to make every single action you do feel satisfying. It's really hard to put into words, and I would highly recommend you check this game out for yourself, or ideally watch my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Link in the description. Nothing really to mention here. I'm just so unsure of everything revolving around this project right now. The ideas are definitely there. I'm proud of the models, the atmosphere's in place, but something still feels so off. I'm really unsure if people will enjoy this, especially with how grim the story is. When I explained the story to my mom, she went pale and just asked me, "What are you thinking?" Just a few weeks ago, I'd have had the answer. Now I'm not so sure. Is this really something anyone would want? Would a story like this really be part of his plan for me? I don't know. I guess it just really goes to show I'm out of my depth completely. There's one more thing I want to try. There's only one way to find out if I'll be satisfied with it though. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. But it's clear from the developer notes that the dev is really starting to doubt themselves. And trust me, the phone guy is having a mental breakdown as well.
Hey, glad to hear that you're alright. I was worried since, you see, there's sort of something I've been wanting to tell you, and it's kinda... Okay, no, I can't do this anymore, dude. Everything's gone wrong, and I think I know why. On your first night, I told you about a birthday party that went bad way back, yeah? I was keeping quiet on the details. It's a sensitive subject around here, but during the party, the animatronics started going crazy. Kind of like they've been recently, and before anyone knew what happened, the power went out. Kids were screaming, parents were running around, and we were doing everything we could to get the lights back on. But by the time we did, the birthday boy was gone. We couldn't find him anywhere, and no power meant no cameras, so we didn't have any leads. Not until our night guard didn't clock in for his shift. He hadn't missed a single shift before then, and he would have known exactly how the camera systems worked, so people filled in the blanks. Started a manhunt. Management tried to forget the whole thing, but the town sure didn't. And now it's looking like it's only gonna get worse. I swear I'm seeing things that aren't there, hearing sounds on the walls, and that puppet thing keeps vanishing. I don't know why the animatronics are moving, but all of this, there's only one explanation I can think of. That kid's still here, like his ghost or something. I think it's responsible for everything that's happened since then. And deep down, maybe you're thinking the same thing. That's the only reason I can think of for why you keep coming back. Maybe you know something I don't, but here's the facts, man. This place isn't safe anymore. I'm taking my last paycheck and getting out of here. I'd suggest you do the same, but it seems you're pretty dead set on whatever it is you're trying to do. But I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest with you. No one else believed me, and look, I can't do much to make it up to you, but I know this place that serves some good drinks, and the food's pretty great. Yeah, no animatronics either. Just, give me a call tomorrow if you're up for it. My treatment. It's the least I could do. Good luck.
After completing night 5, we get our paycheck as usual. But of course, if you've ever seen any FNAF game in your entire life before, then you'd know we're not quite done yet. Going back to the title screen, we'll see we've unlocked the overtime night. And surprisingly, it is not just a harder version of night 5. Overtime night starts with a phone call, not from the phone guy we've been hearing so far. If you remember, he said he was quitting, and exactly that he did. The phone call we get tonight is from a woman, talking about how employees have been spreading rumors about the animatronics and monsters, all of which we know is true. She says that all the employees who have been spreading these rumors will be docked pay, which I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And with that, overtime night begins. Let's just start by getting one thing out of the way. This night is stressful. However, it's really fun. The entire game is really fun. When I first heard this game was made by Avocado Dreams, I was really scared it was going to be incredibly fucking hard like Graveyard Shift and Remnants of Tubbyland. But to my surprise, while yes, this game definitely isn't easy, there is very little RNG that is overwhelming, and I was actually able to complete this night. Overtime night introduces one final threat, which this game calls Jailbird. Jailbird is not at all a hard threat to deal with. I feel like she serves more as a nuisance character that you need to spend time on more than a threat that will actually get you killed. Editor, don't you dare think about playing the clip where I died to her. You know full well I died there because I didn't fully understand how she worked yet. Don't even start with me, Buster. You're on thin ice, bitch! Oh! Oh! What the fuck was that thing? Whoa, whoa, what the hell was that thing? Jailbird will wander around your cameras in an attempt to get to your garage. When she gets to the garage, she'll start to open the garage's door. When it opens, she will, for some reason, be at the front door to your office, which up until this point has never been used. If you take a look at the map, I'm not entirely sure how her opening up the garage door makes her end up here. That doesn't make much sense to me, and is why I didn't fully understand her at first. Editor, piece of shit! When you know she's behind that door, you will have to quickly spam open and close your camera. This will make her slowly emerge from behind the door and eventually leave your office. How does this make sense whatsoever? I have no idea. Don't question it. Boss character, hooray, hooray, weird shit! This night is very fast-paced, but because of the way all of the mechanics in this game work together, it serves to be an incredibly satisfying and enjoyable night overall. The difficulty is definitely high, but it is in no way overwhelming like some of Avocado Dreams' other games, which I, as someone who is dog shit at FNAF games, can really appreciate. Of course, you also have your custom night, but on top of that, after beating overtime, you get access to aggressive mode, an optional setting you can use to play through the entire game again with all of the characters having movement opportunities more often. I, for obvious reasons, did not try to complete this mode. However, I know there are some people crazy enough to complete it, and I congratulate all of you who were able to, because watching playthroughs of aggressive mode is actually insane. And of course, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without some secrets and Easter eggs, so we might as well cover those as well, right? The first Easter egg is a Golden Freddy Easter egg. I'm not totally sure how it's pulled off, but just taking a look at the video I found, it seems like you need to flip your camera up and down a few times, then sit on the show stage camera. Golden Freddy should start reciting a Bible verse. Interestingly enough, the Bible verse he's saying is about Hebrews who created a golden calf to worship right before they were freed by God, Exodus 32:31. Afterwards, when you pull the camera down, you'll get this jump scare. In one of the earlier dev notes, the developer mentions a raccoon character that they didn't know what to do with. So during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I thought the final character in the overtime night was going to be this raccoon, but obviously I was wrong. However, there is a chance you can find these renders of him throughout the game. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Night Watch at Freddy's has to offer. I'm pretty confident that we will be getting more games in this series, since it seems the developers' dive into turmoil is only just beginning. And you better believe I'll be around when and if those sequels or prequels come out. Overall, I think Night Watch at Freddy's has become my favorite Avocado Dreams fan project. And no, that's not just because it was the only one I've been able to beat. I think the idea for the story is incredibly unique. The character designs are great, the game mechanics are literally amazing, and every character works together so well. And of course, it doesn't rely too much on RNG. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is easily the worst fan game Avocado Dreams has ever worked on? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 2 Reimagined video, I asked you guys what official FNAF game you'd want to see reimagined next, and my favorite answer was everybody who said FNAF 3. FNAF 3 is easily my least favorite official Click Team FNAF game, and I would want nothing more than to see it remade and have it be amazing. Remakes of the original Click Team FNAF games, something that is definitely pretty popular within the FNAF community. However, how many of them can you name that are actually memorable? FNAF 1 Remake, FNAF 2 Reimagined, Hopeless Pursuit. Sure, those are all titles that are definitely memorable for one reason or another, but the game we're going to be covering today I feel is very memorable. A game I only discovered recently and I really enjoyed. Today, we'll be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy, a recreation of the first FNAF game with so many changes, it's hard to tell that's even what it is. So strap in, because we've got a lot to talk about this time around. Join me today as we clap our cheeks into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy. Legacy does not begin in a very typical FNAF fashion. We begin in this red void of smoke, and a disembodied voice of who knows who speaking to us. They ask if they've reached us, and after confirming, they ask us the question, do you know what happens when the past gets infused with agony? After explaining that the answer is that it changes, they ask us one more question. Why did we drown in the lake? They say that we've disturbed its peace. Not knowing what it is, the voice tells us we've brought consequences. So this tells me that this disembodied voice is most likely Old Man Consequences, from referencing the lake, the literally saying consequences, to of course the red background. That's really the only line I can draw as to who this is. But with that, we're booted to the menu screen and we can really begin. But of course, this game is still not done being extra. Upon starting a new game, we get what feels like a teaser trailer for the game, but it's inside of the game. I have no idea, it's really goofy and unique and I like it. But would you believe me if I told you that even after that, this game is still not done being itself? Let's just say that, because it's not. Afterwards, we get an opening cutscene.
Hello, my name is Ethan Caldwell, and tonight we continue our coverage of the developing case surrounding the mysterious disappearance at the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The public had been captivated by the case. The missing security guard, 25 years old Daniel Grace, had last been seen arriving late for work on Monday night. No official causes had been released by officials, but the bizarre circumstances of Grace's disappearance have fostered speculation. Tragic accident, or was something more sinister involving the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza?
Very interesting opening cutscene. Voice acting, not terrible at all. Really setting the scene. I'm enjoying this. What happens next? Oh my god, we're still not done being extra. Okay, that's fine. I can work with this. After watching the cutscene, we begin outside of the building and actually have to walk inside and into the back room to start doing tasks before the night truly begins. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing interesting you can find while walking to this back room. Oh, yeah, fat motherfucker. Jesus. Ugly. So once we get there, we can explain the downloading log task minigame. It's very simple. You have two monitors. One monitor you can use to download the phone call for each night so that you can listen to it later, and you can also read some interesting information. The second monitor is a camera feed that auto-scrolls through the cameras in the building. All you have to do is download the phone call by clicking and holding. And if Bonnie ever comes into the back room with you, just hide under your desk until you hear him leave. Oh my fucking Christ. Oh my God. Hey, Bonnie's on the move again. Why are you looking at me he's giving me that dream angle, bro. And don't give me the dream angle, bro. Once you finish fully downloading the phone call, you'll be thrown into the night. But before we can talk about the night, we first have to talk about the lore information you can read. After the disappearance of Charlie, the Fredbear's Family Diner closes its doors for good. Finally, I'm tired of working in this place. The animatronics smell like rotten eggs. I hope they never open again. So it seems in this universe, we have some name swaps. That's always fun. Who is Charlie? I have no idea. However, it's pretty clear he's dead as fuck. Not very Riz, but okay, you do you, I guess, boo. They say the animatronics smell like eggs. Weird diss, I suppose, but there are probably dead kids in there, so I guess that checks out too. Anyways, onto the actual night section. How does that sound? Night 1 gives us literally the longest phone call on the face of the planet. Seriously, it lasts until 4:30 a.m. Please God kill me. Anyways, fuck what the phone guy has to say. I'm gonna do it for him. My voice is way better, and I know you guys have some odd things to say about my voice. Yes, I read every single comment I get, by the way, guys. Some of you are fucking freaks. Behave. Let's start by talking about your office because it is a little different from FNAF 1. You do still have 2 doors, so that's nothing new. On the left side, you'll be able to flash the light down the hallway and hold the door closed. Simple sugar. This is what I do to my Willy in bed. I just fucking rock it back and forth. I'm gonna shut up. The right side, however, is where things start to get a bit different. You'll notice there's no door. Well, uh-oh. Where the fuck did it go, huh? Well, joke's on you, there was never a door there in the first place. Why the hell would this company install a door on one side and not the other? I have no fucking idea. Someone clearly did the budget very poorly and they should be ashamed of themselves because this is just embarrassing. To compensate for no door, you can flash your flashlight down the hall and see a grand total of fucking nothing at all because your flashlight is actually ass. But who cares, right? Let's just hope we never have to use it. In front of us is a monitor that surprisingly is not our camera. On it, we have 3 options: reboot, alarm, and vent. I literally never once used the reboot menu, so I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't even exist. The alarm and vent sections, however, are important, and I will explain them more once they become important. Anyways, who are the big bastards introduced on this night? Well, it's a remake of FNAF 1, so that should be pretty obvious. Night 1 introduces Bonnie and Chica. Don't click off the video! I promise they're interesting and do wildly different things than what they do in the original. I wouldn't be covering this game if they didn't. I promise. Let's start with Bonnie since we've already encountered him in the pre-night minigame. Bonnie can attack both your left and right doors. Fuck. I was hoping we could avoid using the flashlight, but I guess I'll just put my balls in a vice grip then, who cares? Bonnie is a shy little autistic emo femboy and doesn't handle eye contact very well. So if you stare at the camera he's on for too long, he'll crank that Soulja Boy and knock the entire thing offline for the rest of the night. Which, by the way, the phone guy mentions that the repair for said camera will come out of our paycheck if that is to happen. And since we're living in FNAF world where we're making a whopping $100 fucking a week, I highly doubt one of our paychecks would even be enough to pay for that anyways. So let's really try to prevent that from happening, shall we? If Bonnie chooses to attack your left door, you will be able to see him in the hallway when you use your light. From that point, just hold the door closed until you hear him bang on it and congrats, problem solved, he'll go back to the stage. Bonnie's attack on the right door is a little bit more interesting. When Bonnie gets to the right door, he will literally enter your office, which is just not a fun sight at all and will in fact make your blood pressure spike to 168 in a fraction of a second. Once he's in your office, you'll have to use the alarm system to make the loudest fucking noise of all time. And when you do, he'll run away because it's too loud and overstimulating. And remember, he's a little autistic, he's sensitive to sound, so you're really just bullying an autistic kid. That's not very epic, but do what you gotta do, I guess. Chica, on the other hand, also has 2 means of attacking you. The first has her go to a certain camera. Now pause for a moment. I want you to take a look at her belly and tell me, what camera do you think she goes to? If you said the bathroom to shit, I'll give you half points because she does travel through the bathroom. Chica's looking me in my eyes. Look at a cupcake. Look at a cupcake, bro. Look at his eyes. He's trying to seduce me and shit. And it's like low-key kind of working. I meant what? but no. The actual answer is the kitchen because she's a whale. If she's in the kitchen, you will have to use the bell button to scare her away. If you're wondering why the sound of a bell that signifies that food is ready would scare a hippo who eats for a living away, the answer is because she gets scared that the food has already been served in the dining room and she's really scared that she may have missed it, and maybe the kids in the dining room have already started eating, but she actually has a rule in her house where nobody is allowed to eat until she's full, except spoiler alert, roly-poly ass chicken bitch is never full, so all of the kids starve and die. Anyways, move. The stupidest thing I've ever written. Anyways, moving on to her second attack where she goes into your vents. Now pause. There's a very easy fat joke I could make here about her not being able to fit in the vent. However, I would never make a fat joke, and this game indirectly makes one for me. Let me explain. Throughout my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, Chica attacked me through the vent no more than 3 times ever. For some reason, she just doesn't really ever do it, which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch. Which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch that she's too scared to try and move through the vents would be correct. If you want to hear my alternative headcanon as to why she doesn't attack through the vents, even though she's programmed to, it's that she'd much rather go to the kitchen where the food might be. Pig ass fucking robot bitch. Anyways, if she does go through the vent, she'll make a sound cue, and all you have to do is use your monitor to seal the vent until you hear her leave. But hey, not so bad. Pretty easy to understand overall. With that, we complete night 1 and can move on to night 2. But of course, before we can start night 2, we have a pre-night phone call to download. Fuck actually talking about the minigame part, it's literally identical to night 1, and the remainder of the nights are as well. But we can of course talk about the lore we can read during it. Finally got the job here at this new Freddy's location. I can't wait to start tinkering around with those animatronic models. They're supposed to have this new advanced free roam mode? Crazy technology. This message seems to be coming from a possible new hire technician designed to work on programming the characters. In the night 1 phone call, the phone guy mentions that the characters were specifically programmed to walk around at night to stretch their legs. So maybe this guy is the guy that chose to make that decision, even though there's literally no need for it whatsoever. This guy just seems like the type to get way too excited over his interests. He probably has a pony jar, I'm just saying. Night 2 begins with the phone guy talking literally as long as he fucking can. This phone call lasts until 2:50 a.m. So that's just awesome. Anyways, who gets introduced on this night? Well, slow your roll, fucker. There's 2 things about the cameras I want to talk about first. The first is that during this phone call, the phone guy mentions that William disabled the backstage camera. However, when you go to check the backstage camera, you'll see that it works perfectly fine. So I don't know what that guy was talking about. The second thing is that Bonnie destroyed the kitchen camera, so you're stuck listening to be able to tell if Chica is there or not. Hooray! I love life. That's a lie, I don't. Anyways, back to who gets introduced on this night. Well, guess what? It's nobody. Nobody is introduced on this night. I'm fairly certain that night 2 is when Bonnie and Chica are allowed to start using their second form of attack. Bonnie's right hall attack and Chica's vent attack. Maybe. I'm not really sure exactly why nothing new is introduced here, if I'm being honest, but that's what happens. Anyways, let's move on to night 3. Maybe something new will be added there. Night 3, phone guy only talks until 1:53 a.m. So hey, I guess that's progress. Night 3 does actually introduce something new, but before we talk about who it is, I want to mention something the phone guy brings up. He says that William ordered 2 vintage animatronics, a type of animatronic that they don't make anymore, from an old location. Now, I'm not a genius, but it also doesn't take a genius to figure out that he's undoubtedly talking about Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. He says they won't need any repairs, so that means they're working exactly as intended and there shouldn't be any problems with them at all, right? Anyways, night 3 introduces Freddy, and a mechanic that makes me want to stick a push pin in my testicle, pull it out, and slowly squeeze all of the various juices out of it. Freddy stays on stage for a majority of the night. However, whenever he damn well pleases, he will choose to leave with a sound cue. When he does, you will have to find him on the fucking cameras as he teleports to a random one. God damn, guys, I'm getting real sick of this mechanic, you know that? Anyways, luckily, Freddy can't go to literally any camera. He can only teleport to the backstage camera, the arcade camera, the dining hall camera, the restroom camera, or the entrance camera. Basically all the fucking cameras. Once you find which camera Freddy went to, all you have to do is use a camera flash to send him back to the main stage. I know I haven't talked about the camera flash yet, but this is really the only occasion you ever use it. So I thought, why bring it up earlier? Anyways, let's move on. You don't need to hear me explain my thought process for pacing while I script. Let's continue. Actually, now that I say let's continue, I'm noticing that's the only thing Night 3 introduces, so we should probably move on to Night 4. But hold up! After beating Night 3, we actually get a post-Night 8-bit minigame. And this is actually the only post-Night 8-bit minigame throughout the whole game. In this minigame, we play as William inside the restaurant. Upon trying to leave the room, we're told to get what we need. After what took me probably 5 fucking minutes of trial and error, I finally found out that you need to interact with this very obvious looking present on this table. You might be wondering how it took me 5 minutes to figure that out, and that's because I tried it right away, but nothing happened. The hitboxes in this minigame are some of the most retarded, inconsistent shit I've ever seen. If I had to pick a least favorite moment from this entire game, it would undoubtedly be playing this minigame. Anyways, after opening the gift box, we get a knife and can exit the back room. Outside of it, we find a crying child asking for his parents. We tell him we know where his parents are, and upon following us to the back room, we fucking murder him, smiling the entire time. What if I just don't? Can I just choose to like not do that? Maybe that's a crazy ask. Okay, I have to. Damn! Based. Based. Everybody, it's based. Based and Riz. Based and Riz, bro. Anyways, on to Night 4. Night 4 has the phone guy relapse and completely break all of his progress he's made so far as he yaps until fucking 4:06 a.m. Jesus Christ, bro. There cannot be that much to talk about. And in truth, there really isn't. 80% of his phone calls are made up of awkwardly laughing at the unfunniest joke you've ever heard really slowly, and then pretending like the joke he said he didn't even say. Interesting.
Let's just say the camera now has a new perspective on the floor tiles.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Phone guy is a character for sure in this game. Anyways, what's introduced? Night 4 introduces one new threat, that being Foxy. The final threat this game introduces, actually. And if you know my videos, you know I'm fucking lying and we're gonna introduce some more later, but fuck you. Foxy is probably my favorite character in this entire game, having his attack act as sort of a minigame reminiscent of Five Nights at Candy's 3. Very vaguely. Foxy will slowly appear out from behind his curtains, which, in all honesty, these Foxy frames are probably the creepiest frames throughout the entirety of this game, if I'm being honest. They're not like literally scary, but the positions he's in, mixed with how large he is, just makes him feel very uncomfortable. Anyways, how does he work? After he leaves Pirate's Cove, you will be able to hear him running towards either your left door or your right door, and very intense music will start playing like it's a fucking boss fight, which I think is really cool. If he runs towards your left door, all you have to do is close the door until you hear him bang on it. If he runs to the right door, all you have to do is hold your light on his face until he runs away. Where this becomes slightly reminiscent of Candy's 3 is that he will move around and attack multiple times, going back and forth between the two doors as many times as he'd like. Is it hard? No, and in fact, literally every other character pauses while Foxy is attacking you. So that's very RNG considerate. Thank you guys greatly. But yeah, that's about it. Pretty fun character overall. Gets your blood pumping a bit, especially when you hear the music that starts to play alongside it. But anyways, on to Night 5. I lied. I have one other thing I want to talk about first. During the Night 4 phone call, the phone guy mentions that one of the animatronics they were shipping arrived early and was like nothing that was written down to be shipped. A single endoskeleton with a weird model they've never seen before and very sharp fingers. They say they're leaving it in the safe room for now until they know what to do with it. First of all, I should mention that the safe room is a camera that you have never been able to access since the start of the game. The second thing to mention is that I'm not like an expert, and I'm really bad when it comes to the official FNAF lore, like criminally terrible, and if I'm being honest, I actually don't even like the official FNAF lore, and I haven't since Pizzeria Simulator. But that endoskeleton sounds a lot like the Mimic to me. Maybe I'm just a bit nutty, but I bet I'm not. 6 a.m., bro, let's do it. Easy peasy lemon dick.
This is Henry Emily, the founder and, for better or worse, the sole person responsible for this place's continued existence.
Oh my god, it's the fucking Mimic. So yeah, after beating Night 4, we get a scrap minigame with what I can only imagine is the Mimic. And of course, this minigame works exactly how the minigames in Pizzeria Simulator work. Play some weird-ass sounds, document results. Watch the fucker across the table move in ways you'd really prefer it doesn't. You know, FNAF shit. Shit we're all used to at this point. But after you get jump scared by the Mimic, we can talk about the pre-Night 5 minigame. Dexter, you've already said these don't change. Well, you're right. It really doesn't change from the other 4 we've done. However, on this night, we also get access to the admin panel where we can actually enable the safe room camera's access. Oh yeah, and we also see M2 plans that are redacted, I'm pretty sure being references to the Mimic, and Charlotte being redacted too. Dead kid stuff, who cares? I want to see this camera, bro. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit, I can tell you what. Well, we're gonna talk about those guys a bit later. For now, let's just talk about Night 5. Night 5 is pretty boring overall, being a harder version of Night 4. That is, until you beat it. That's when something I wasn't expecting to happen at all happened.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you like this, but I'm afraid your time is up. Your curiosity and your need for answers are what first brought you here. And now, they have become your undoing. Because all those who enter this place are doomed to never leave. There are monsters who steal others' voices, monsters who steal others' souls. And then, there is you, the one who craved to learn more than he should, and more than he ever will. You will not find the answers you seek here, only your ruin. But while your sacrifice will be forgotten, the impact it will have will not, as the wounds of the past left to fester can finally heal. There will be no more suffering, no more loss, only peace. Peace and a forgotten tomb sealed away, never to be opened again. It all ends tonight. End communication.
Holy shit, we're getting a Golden Freddy boss fight, and it actually has the most badass intense boss music I've ever heard in my fucking life. Golden Freddy isn't very complicated, but he does attack you very quickly, so you'll have to stay on your toes. And of course, he has several attack methods at his disposal, which are all inspired by the attacks of the other characters in typical boss night fight fashion. His first attack has him appear at your right door. All you have to do is hold your light on him until he goes away. His other attack has him pull a Freddy and have you find him on the cameras. However, this one actually proves to be easier than Freddy is, since he actually only appears on 2 cameras, the back room and the entrance. And that's actually it. Dexter, that's it? That's all the final boss of this game has to offer? Really? Hey, shut the fuck up. Look at how much time is left in this video. We're not done yet, bro. Sit the fuck down. About 30 seconds into the night is when you'll notice that all the other characters are still active. What the fuck? This is why Golden Freddy only has 2 attacks, because he's in addition to everything else you've already gotten used to, mixed with the incredibly intense music, the fire all over your screen, the shit in my britches. This serves to be one of the coolest boss fight nights I've ever seen in a FNAF game. It's so fun.
Good morning. I am Ethan Caldwell. We're coming to you with breaking news. A catastrophic fire has reduced a newly reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to ashes in what officials are calling a nightmare scenario. Flames tore through the building just after 7 a.m., with witnesses reporting smoke so thick it blotted out the morning sun. Firefighters arrived, but the inferno had already consumed the entire structure. Authorities confirm all employees escaped unharmed, and thankfully, no customers were inside at the time. However, in a grim twist, investigators have revealed 2 disturbing details. First, the restaurant's infamous animatronic characters, along the centerpiece of the franchise, were completely destroyed in the blaze. And second, even more unsettling, there was an intruder inside when the fire broke out. Security footage recovered from an external camera shows an unidentified individual entering the building in the middle of the night. Their motives remain unknown. What is certain, however, is that they never made it out. Police have not yet released a description, but sources close to the investigation say the manner of death was, unquote, horrific. This tragedy only deepens the dark legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. After years of controversy, bizarre incidents, and persistent rumors of hauntings, many are asking, was this arson, an accident, or something far more unnatural and sinister? We'll continue to follow the story shortly for Channel 7 News. Stay tuned.
To our beloved Fazbear family. At Fazbear Entertainment, our top priority has always been delivering safe, wholesome, and unforgettable experiences for families across our establishment. In light of the recent isolated events at one of our locations, we want to take this opportunity to reassure our loyal fans that every possible measure is being taken to ensure such thing will not happen again. While the exact circumstances surrounding the incident remain under internal review, preliminary findings suggest it was caused by absolutely nothing related to prior complaints or unresolved maintenance issues. Our team is working closely with third-party investigators to determine the best path forward. We'd also like to clarify that reports of unusual activity prior to the event, including alleged animatronic malfunctions, unexplained power surges, are entirely unfounded and likely the result of overactive imaginations. Rest assured, all our animatronic performers are completely harmless and incapable of independent movement outside of their pre-programmed routines. Any footage suggesting otherwise is clearly doctored or taken out of context. As we look toward the future, Fazbear Entertainment is excited to announce a temporary pause on operations at the affected location while we conduct routine modernization efforts. We remain fully committed to reopening when the time is right. Thank you for your unwavering trust. Warm regards, Fazbear Entertainment Public Relations Team. Creating smiles, no matter what. Afterwards, we get yet another chat with Old Man Consequences. We obviously died in that fire on night 5, but the old man asks us what we would do if we could go to a timeline where the fire didn't occur, a timeline where William failed. The old man wants to show us what would happen, and show us he does, as next we're set to take on the Golden Ones. But before we do, we get a black gift box. Inside, a note which reads, "Every ripple is a year you can't take back." Night 6 has us take on Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, with all of the other characters disassembled in the back room. This night is easily the most challenging night throughout the entire game. Let's talk about why. Let's start by talking about Spring Bonnie, who has 2 forms of attack. The first has him attack your left door exactly like Bonnie. Same rules apply here, just close the door. However, it's a much better option to just not even let him get to your door in the first place. The way you do so is very easy. Whenever you flash Spring Bonnie on your cameras, he will go back to the stage. So you're obviously going to want to do that a lot. What about his second attack? Well, that would have him use the vents, which, by the way, unlike fat ass, fuck ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass, stupid ass, dumb ass Chica, he will actually do very frequently, and he is incredibly fast in them. The moment you hear his vent sound cue, you need to drop whatever you're doing and focus on that goddamn vent, because he will rail you in your ass if you don't. But what about Fredbear? Honestly, he's easier than Spring Bonnie in every way, but he does cause 2 major annoyances in combination with Spring Bonnie. Fredbear tries to attack your right door, just like Bonnie. When he enters, play the alarm and he'll leave. However, when the alarm is playing, Spring Bonnie actually moves at a faster rate, which is just fucking awful. Also, it's probably a good idea to mention that Fredbear also attacks fast as shit. And actually, both of their aggression increases throughout the night. So near the end, you'll probably have Fredbear in your office all the fucking time. Hooray. But what about the other super annoying thing that Fredbear does? Well, Fredbear doesn't like being flashed and will disable any camera that you do flash with him on it, requiring you to reboot, which takes forever. The problem? Well, it's common for Spring Bonnie and Fredbear to appear on the same camera at the same time. And with how quickly Spring Bonnie moves, it's likely that the muscle memory to flash immediately will be built quickly. So if you're anything like me, you were accidentally flashing Fredbear a lot. And if you're really retarded like me, you'd forget that the camera's being disabled does not mean the night is over, and every single time you accidentally flashed Fredbear, instead of just rebooting, you instead chose to restart the night every single time. I'm not the brightest person, guys, okay? I try my best over here. These streets are hard. Even though these two characters together don't have many ways of killing you, this night is still incredibly stressful, mainly with just how fast these two get in the final hour. However, something about this night, and this entire game in fact, is that I honestly never once felt like RNG was a factor at all. And that's rare. I play FNAF games for a living, so I see a lot of them. And never once have I played a game that really felt like there was no RNG at all. And I honestly think that's one of the coolest things, ever. But if you can keep your composure long enough, you'll complete the night and get to watch this super awesome tape.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike where fantasy and fun come to life. Our establishment is a place where fun and safety go hand in hand. Part of what makes our family-friendly experience so special are the animatronics that entertain our guests. To ensure they continue to operate smoothly and safely, proper cleaning and maintenance is essential. And that's where you come in, our dear employee. Without you, none of this would be ever possible. In this tape, we will guide you through the process of cleaning our beloved animatronics. It is important to follow these steps carefully and thoroughly to keep our characters in tip-top shape and ensure everyone's safety.
How to clean the joints and mechanisms.
First of all, you will need a soft brush, a mild cleaning solution, and a dry towel. Avoid using any harsh chemicals as they can damage the animatronic suit. Using said soft brush, carefully clean the joints and mechanical parts while avoiding any visible human remains.
Human remains, human remains, human remains.
And once you finish cleaning, give yourself a pat on the back and a complimentary slice of pizza and climb into the animatronic. This really makes sure that it's ready to entertain our guests again. And thank you so much for being a part of Fazbear Entertainment. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for any injury, loss of a child, or loss of a head that may occur on our premises. By entering our establishment, you agree that Fazbear Entertainment is not liable for any damages, accidents, or unfortunate incidents that may arise.
While I do find it incredibly unfortunate that I had to look at fat shit Toy Freddy for a majority of this tape, we do see some pretty rizzy stuff, like a redacted dead child probably, and of course the Golden Freddy scene, where he mentions there's a girl inside of him, most likely referring to the fact that there are two souls caught inside of the Golden Freddy suit. Something about this game that I really like is that there's so much additional, non-repetitive things added to it. The random 8-bit minigame, this tape, the salvage minigame, none of it was needed, but I think it's such a nice touch that it was chosen to be added anyways. After the tape, we get one final chat with Old Man Consequences. He asks if we wish to go back, if we're finally satisfied. He mentions how boring the present is and asks if we enjoyed the legacy. Nice name drop, by the way. There's also like so much other bullshit he says in this final cutscene. I'm gonna be real, guys. I just cannot be fucked to try and understand it. There's so much random symbolic shit about like the lake being a mirror and being pulled out when you're choking from drowning in the lake, but the lake is a mirror, so what the fuck? I hate metaphors and I don't want the headache. I'm sure whatever this means is super deep and cool, but I'm not about to spend the next 5 hours writing a fucking MLA format essay trying to decipher it. Not my forte, thank you. But with that, that's all Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy has to offer. Overall, I think this game is probably my favorite reimagining of the original FNAF game that I've ever played. Each character feels super unique, and even the typical boring characters have multiple ways to attack you, which keeps them interesting the whole time. There's so much extra things added throughout the game to keep the loop exciting. The game looks amazing, the story is intriguing and mysterious, which I know a lot of people really like, and I would definitely recommend you go and give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just trying to be another generic FNAF Plus? Let me know in the comments below. In my Night Watch at Freddy's video, I asked you guys what your favorite Avocado Dreams game was and why, and my favorite answer was everyone who unanimously agreed that it was Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. Don't really know what I was expecting there. I should have known that was going to be the answer. Subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to all of my super fan channel members. You guys are made of Riztanium, which is like titanium but with Riz. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!